It is not only a violation for human rights, it's a barrier to economic growth, public health, political stability, and the very fabric of human dignity. When a woman, when a woman's silence, a community is silent. We have to speak. When a girl's future is stolen, the future of the nation is dim. Our mission here is clear: to listen to survivors and honor their courage, to demand accountability from institutions, governments, and leaders, to create actionable roadmap for change, because statements without solution is not enough. We go into the United We had an event last night, and that's the plan. We are going. We're not just going to be talking here. We're going to take a stand and go in front of all the presidents and let them know what's happening. Because when I last heard it, Guyana was leading in the violence, gender-based violence. Guyana, the UN put out the paperwork, Guyana is leading. I'm sorry to say I'm from Guyana and I'm ashamed. Let the summit be placed where silence turns into advocacy, where pain gives birth to progress, and where we reaffirm that women's rights are human rights. Everywhere, every time, without exception. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Lady Aaron. And now we'll have our keynote by Dr. Schumer. Dr. Chuma.
So like you already know, my name is Dr. Chuma. And yes, I work for my government back home. And I have a non-profit organization, Short Smiles, Women and Children Advocacy Initiative, that also has a PSOC status with the United Nations. So over the years, we have been working on issues as it concerns women, children, and girls. If you look at this paper, the program at the back, you'll see that I'm actually supposed to address the under 8, that is the United Nations General Assembly 80th session. So for the past few days, most heads of states, presidents, non-profit organizations, international bodies have been gathering at the United Nations. What is it all about? Every year, around this time, the world leaders gather at the United Nations. This is the 80th session. So that means it's been going on and on and on, and this is the 80th. What happens there? You ever wondered, what is all this all about? Or you think it's all that business? In a nutshell, this is the place where issues as it affects the world are articulated, debated, and resolutions are passed towards seeking a lasting solution. Women issues are not different. Women issues as it affects women are also tabled before the president, before the heads of state, before international bodies, before the world. And what are they talking about? As a matter of fact, I want to make you understand that this year's topic, this year's theme 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly is Better Together, 80 years and more peace, development and human rights. You can't be talking about development, you can't be talking about human rights without including the woman. You can't be talking about human rights without talking about the girls and the children. So it's all inclusive. For us, we decided to coin something different from this by adding Better Together, 80 years and more peace, development and human rights for women and girls. Gender-based violence has been one of the major issues that have been eating up the fabrics of development internationally. When we talk about gender-based violence, it is not just about the woman. I am aware of a woman that beats the husband blue and red. Yeah. I am aware of the woman that beats the wife or the partner red and green. So when we talk about gender, we are talking about the male and the female. It is not a one-sided issue. It's not a one-sided affair. We have issues where we have cases where the women deal ruthlessly with the male. And we also have issues, we have cases where the male, without fear or favor, with no passion, pounds the living daylight out of the woman. Please note, violence is not just about physical. When you stop me from carrying out my rights and privileges, you are violating me. Right. Yes. It is not only when you hit me, it is not only when you push me, but when I stand up to express myself and say, hey, you sit down there, how dare you? It is violent against my rights. When we are supposed to have equal rights in the workplace, where you are supposed to do what you call it now, employment, then you now say no. The women, we're going to give them, maybe let's give them out of the 100, let's give the men 80, and then let's give the women 20%. It's violence. And then when you ask, why would you want to give the women? Why would you want to give the women 20%? What comes, the excuses that are being given most times is laughable. I'm sure you must have heard about it. Really, because if you give them more, every year you see them going on maternity leave. See them bearing children, leaving the office, they want to go on school run, they want to go on maternity care, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. What is wrong with procreation? Is anything wrong with procreation? Is that supposed to be a problem? As a matter of fact, where I work, there is a certain time you're supposed to be in the office and a certain time you're supposed to take vacation. So what happens to those times you go on vacation? What I want the House to understand is this. When we talk about gender-based violence, it is both ways. Now, the issue is, how do we stop? This year again, the world is talking about living in peace, being one, moving ahead, forging ahead, worldwide and health-wise, socially, economically, otherwise. They're going to talk, they're going to come up with resolutions. If you're watching, if you're following the events, there are some resolutions that were thrown out. And there are some resolutions that were accepted. Before they leave, they're going to come to a round table and they're going to sign. Now, the issue is this. When they adopt, they sign and adopt the resolution, and they go back home. Are those things really implemented? Countries, do they really implement that? Here in the US, is it really implemented? What happens happens to a man that is reported to the social officer that he is violating the wife, or he violated the wife, what happens? In my place, there is a legislation, but most times it is swept under the carpet. And most times, if you are known politically, it is submerged. And at times too, we the women, we are also the cause of the problem.
That's true.
You have a case where a man beats a woman blue black, and then a neighbor, a social worker, a non-profit organization decides to pick up the matter. When it's about to be escalated, you see the woman going back to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think you need to drop this matter now. I've sorted it with him. Everything is fine." Several times. At the point I felt I have taken decisions, but most times I'm being appealed to, and then I also reverse the decision. You stand up.
Sorry about that.
Well, the difference is,
Sorry.
You stand up,
Apologies.
put in your resources, put in your time, put in your energy to fight for a case. You get a lawyer, you make the payment. As the case is advancing, you're being called on phone. "Hey, Dr. Chuma, can I have a word with you tomorrow over lunch?"
which is,
Sorry.
And I said, "Okay, fine." We schedule a time. Only for the woman to walk in. After several visits to the court and all of that, the lady will just come up and tell you, "You know what? I think I've heard of it, my man. Would you mind dropping the case?" If you were in my shoes, how would you feel? So most times we were not encouraged. So when you see it happening, at times you go this way. Then you see most cases in the offices.
Accessibility shortcuts, 18 items, voice guide.
Sorry. Go.
Stop it, just stop.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
Most times in certain countries, in most countries, just like they are all going to disperse maybe in the next few days, and every president will go home, or people have represented their countries, organizations, non-profits, international organizations will all go home with a signed resolution. Now, we all know what happens with politicians. If the resolution is not going to be in their favor, you know that most times it's not going to be implemented. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we advance forward? It's enough talking, it's good coming up with solutions, it's good coming up with ideas. How do you get this implemented? In my place, if you have a high profile case, I can assure you it will not cross the gate. It dies there. Yeah. That's number one. How about the stigma? How about the stigma? You see a lady comes to sit here, then you now see some people in one corner, hushing, you know that lady? She's the person, she's that lady. You walk into a hall because you have decided to leave the marriage. The name, single. Sometimes it's single. I don't even want to mention the names that they call such women. And now you want to look for a job, and then you're trying to put up your CV, and then MS. Most times that's the word when you're no longer in your marriage. If you're a woman, you put MS. You may not attach the man's name and all of that. And so when you're now doing your CV, sometimes it's not that smooth. And once they look at it, of course, you know it's going to be thrown away. Like it's a taboo. The question now is, how do we push forward? One, we should encourage when you see, if you're in an organization and you discover that there is there are stuffs going on that are not supposed to be. There's need for each and every one of us to speak because it starts with us. It starts with us. And if you're the chief executive and you're here, are you playing your part? Are you playing your role as regards letting the voice of women to be heard in your organization? Are you playing your role as encouraging your wife if she decides to go into politics? Are you playing your role as in trying to, if you have a girl child, if you have a daughter, are you playing your role as a father and trying to chart a course for that child if the child decides to be a dancer? Are you playing your role if the child decides to marry outside your? Some men, some parents would rather die than allow their child, than allow their daughters or sons to marry outside their culture or outside their country, outside. That's violation.
Yeah.
That is violence against the child's rights. It starts with you and me. Yeah. How many times would you see if a lady walks in, you're seated, and there's no seat in the room, and you stand and allow the lady to sit? How many of you would, when you see a lady or a guy talking rudely to a lady, and you're like, hey, come on, stop, that's not right? Most times he's in my face. The guy will even, you know what the guy, if you're a lady, if you're a married woman, and then a guy is insulting you, and you're like, are you okay? And the man passes, you know what the guy is going to tell you? Don't you know you're a married woman? Even if he insults you, just walk away. Is that the way of life? So in all of this, it's you and I. We have to look inwards and then see how we can address it individually, because it starts from the home. From the home out to the society. From the society out into the world. You don't expect, like in my country, I wouldn't expect my president to come to my home to talk to me about gender-based violence. I don't expect the mayor to come to my home. It is me that will take a decision on how best to make it work for me. And the world is going global. We have the AI and all of that. We should move. We're gradually moving out of this century, so we should move. We should move away from it. Engage things that encourage each other. And then reject things that does not encourage one another. If you cannot allow me to go to school because I'm a woman, that's absolute nonsense. If you want me to be married out at early stage because I'm a girl, that's rubbish. If you're going to have me circumcised because I'm a woman, it's going to stop me from being sexually active, that's balderdash. If you're not going to allow me or engage me, allow me to go into politics, because you feel it's a space reserved for men, you're messing up with my brain. So, what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is this. As the world is advancing, as the United Nations General Intent Assembly is there trying to churn out resolutions that will advance peace in the world. We too individually, as we are all seated here, we also have a role to play. Because most of us, we have wives, we have sisters, we have aunts, we have daughters. Let it start with me. I want, as we're leaving the store, you hear gender-based violence, not just about boxing, it's not about, they have everything that has to do with the rights and privileges.
Amen to that.
Of the man. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our keynote speaker, bringing us right on to, and you know what it is that if you see something, say something. I did not trust myself to speak tonight, so I actually wrote down my limited time because we like to talk, we advocate. And so I would tell the speakers going forward, 5 minutes, please. Our keynote speaker did very well. But you know, we are women who advocate, so we get lost in time. The night is run away with us because we had so much fun together. As we follow our program, I will give my short address, which I wrote down so I don't go over my time. And after that, my colleague, Miss Boston, will give her address. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we've been having a really wonderful time tonight, but it's all about advocating and it's about bringing some attention to the UNGA 80. Because as my keynote speaker said, this is a time when they sit down, all the countries come together and they make a decision about our lives. But what they're saying about our lives, are we really included? Is it inclusive about us? Is it? No. So to have a seat at the table, organizations such as ours, civic organization, have what is called a side event. And so this is a side event. So we gather our community leaders and we talk about the real issue that includes us. So without further ado, I will read my statement because like my colleague, I know I will go over my time. So, it's about gender violence in Africa and the Caribbean. This is a global call to action at the UNGA. Today, as we gather at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, we are reminded that the promise of the United Nations Charter to promote peace, dignity, and equality remains unfulfilled for the millions of women and girls across Africa and the Caribbean. Gender violence is not just a woman's issue, it's a human right crisis. It is a public health emergency. It is a barrier to peace, development, and the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal that the United Nations put in place for us. Across Africa, child marriages, female genital mutilation, intimate partner violence, and sexual abuse in conflict zones continue at an alarming rate. Men make war and women suffer. Women get raped and women are used as sexual tools to fight war. In many communities, survivors have no access to justice, no access to shelter, and no access to mental health care. In the Caribbean, gender-based violence claims lives every day. Behind closed doors, in school, on street. Survivors are too often silent by fear, cultural norm, or the absence of legal protection. And LGBT individuals face violence and discrimination without equal access to justice or safety. We all know somebody who's gone through that. These realities represent systematic human rights violation, the denial of right to life, dignity, education, and health. These are basic human rights issues. But we are here today because we know change is possible. Through events such as this one, we can have our voices heard and make, you talk about the footsteps. Well, let's put our footsteps down. We are here today because we know change is possible. Through the Miss Caricom International Foundation, we are turning advocacy into action, into programs such as this. We have the Women's Health and Right Initiative, providing education, community health training, and access to reproductive and mental health services for survivors. The Girls Education and Leadership Program, ensuring girls stay in school, have mentorship opportunities, and break cycle of poverty and violence. The Men as Allies campaign, because this is not just about women. Engaging men and boys to change harmful norms and promote respect and equality. If we are going to have change, we must bring them to the table. Emergency release and counseling service, offering safe shelter, trauma-informed care, and legal support for survivors in crisis. Yet, despite these efforts, the funding gap remains wide. Grassroots organizations are on the front line, but lack substantial financial and technical support. Laws exist in many countries, but enforcing them and survivor services are chronically under-resourced. I didn't trust myself, so I wrote it down. That is why today at this historic UNGA gathering, this side event of the W4 Summit, I call for, 1, a global funding commitment, dedicated financial support for gender violence, prevention, survivor services, and mental health programs in Africa and the Caribbean. Stronger legal framework and enforcement, ensuring existing laws protect survivors and punish perpetrators without delay or discrimination. Mental health and trauma care are vital. Recognizing the long-term effect of gender violence and funding accessible mental health services. Education and economic empowerment. Supporting programs that keep girls in school and provide women with skills and livelihood for independence. Global partnership between governments, UN agencies, civil society, and the private sector to share expertise, resources, innovation, and address the problem on the ground. Ending gender violence is not just an act of justice, it is a precondition for peace and a prerequisite for sustainable development goals. Let us make UNGA the turning point where words give way to action, where promise becomes programs such as this, and where women and girls in Africa and the Caribbean can finally live free from violence and fear. Together, we can deliver on this promise of equality and human rights for all. Thank you. I kept my time. Next, we're gonna have Colette Lawson. Be mindful of the time.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I will be talking about advocacy and activism. In many of the African countries and throughout the diaspora of the African peoples. I'm going to talk about that part, but I'm going to include everybody. There happens to be a type of blindness that occurs to African people around the world. It's not just the fact that they are overlooked, it's the fact that they are dismissed with prejudice. And I'm not saying anyone else is not going through this, but it happens on every continent to African people. And it is often hushed or buried, so that when you go to look for it or even to address it, you are looked upon as a troublemaker. You are looked upon as somebody who's a tattletale, somebody who's a whistleblower. And so when things don't ever get done, because it is always thrown under the rug. And what I notice is people of other nations fight each other, but they fight us most. And I'm not saying all, because it's obvious it's not all. But I want to say that when we include the term people of color, We're including Asians, we're including Hispanics, we're including, the Samoan, the Polynesians.
Yes.
But oftentimes when you use that, it always goes down either to women's rights versus not even the family rights. The thing is, a woman without her family is lost. Unless her family is no good, and then she has to make family again. But we have to look at the family as a cohesive. Not every family is of blood. Many families are made because our families were dangerous to be in. So I'm saying, as an activist, an activism, an advocacy, we must make solutions to make sure that we have equal participation as far as any of the programs that are going on to help us to be better people. We need to understand there's a pathology or a study of the ineffectiveness of what happens when these rules are not followed. What do I mean by that? If you have in law that you are supposed to respect your wife, but when the wife calls the police say you need to listen to your husband, there has been a breakdown in the enforcement of that law. And that is a problem. My mother was abused by my dad, and every time she called the police, they would tell her, you need to listen to your husband. She's crying, she's bruised. They're not even looking at that. They're just trying to make sure that the patriarchy stands. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with patriarchy. There's nothing wrong with it if it's done in an effective way. There's nothing wrong with it if it's done in a fair way. But I always say, no justice, no peace. And we have to get to a realization that we are in a war to silence us. They do not want to hear our voices. And I always say, if you are not at the table making decisions, guess what? You are on the menu. Okay? So if you don't see yourself making decisions, you are the person that is being decided against. And we have to realize that when we go out for any kind of advocacy, there will always be pushback. We have to have the stick-to-itiveness to keep going forward, regardless of what comes at us. And we have to learn to always have allies in different groups, because we cannot do this by ourselves. And I say, united, what is it? Divided we stand, divided we fall. And we have to realize that if we continue to allow the divisiveness of tradition, culture, religion, and also skin color to be a divisive method, we will always be on the menu. We will never, ever get to be at the table to make those decisions. And so we have got to do better with coming together, and we have got to do better with, even if you have your own agenda, align it with mine. Let's go further together. You know, we can go far by ourselves, but we can go faster together. And I think that that is something that we need to think about. And I would like to say, thank you so very much, Dr. Sanchez, for allowing me to be on this panel. Thank you to all of the other panelists, those who have spoken, those that will speak. We must do better. As we do better, we will see change that is lasting. Thank you.
I did hear my panelist mention that she wrote a book. And she did write a book, as you can see in the program. And I hope that you look it up, and thank you so much. That was an awesome speech. Next, we have Alicia Cole. Let me see, let me be sure, put my peepers on here. Yes. No, we have Rahul, he's not here? I'm right here. Oh, okay. All right, so, you need, you all said.
Wait 1 second.
Okay,
Coming now. 1
great.
second. Wait, 1
So
second.
we
1
want
second.
you up front.
Wait 1 minute. 1
Yep,
minute.
that's
Please
it.
wait 1 second, okay? Please.
Hello, everyone. I like to make a lot of noise because, as you heard, this is the Trauma Talks. So we talk only about trauma, and all I've heard is y'all took me back so far. So, Dr. Mark, you can't time me for waiting on my music, okay? I'm just kidding. All right. So, let me know when you're ready with my
Yeah, I got
music.
you.